Hello.
You clap? I didn't hear it.
I did clap. Hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space. You might have noticed something in that I am now in your room with you.
Yeah, he is. I mean, it sounds that way. His mic, we're still working out the kinks of it, but as you can tell, it's a much richer, creamier sound. Smoother.
You can tell, can't you?
And, oh, that sounds way better. Keep your mouth wherever you just were.
That was me, comically close to the mic.
Stay comically close to the mic.
Hey guys, how's it going? Well, I can't say this close because I feel like I'm coming close to someone's face, so I can't talk normally because I feel like I'm screaming into the viewer's face. I can only be this close if I'm talking like this, and I don't want to.
Then talk like that, because that's perfect.
No,
you need to get over your fears of the mic being the viewer's face and just talk normally while doing that, because it sounds good.
Hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space. Hi.
Hell yes.
I've been sort of reveling in, it's as though I've been mute for my whole life and I've suddenly gained the ability to talk and I've been reveling in it. I've just been doing Thanos impressions for 10 minutes.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You guys, I almost cried because I've been like, Tam, please get a different mic. And he was like, no, it's fine, as we spend 10 minutes getting it to work again. And finally the day has come. So,
what are we here for, Darnell? We're not here to talk about the mic.
We're here for Aetheral Space, baby. That's right, 3.24. What happened last time? Why doesn't Tanhony tell you himself?
Well, Muzazi was interrogated by Dragon Hadrian, our protagonist. And, well, needless to say, things didn't go very well for either of them, as opposing ideologies clashed. Following that, we had a brief encounter with Ruth and Dragon, so a very different sort of relationship there. And they were in the gymnasium where Skipper had previously trained Dragon. And Dragon was learning about the pillars of Aether.
Oh, so, yeah! Yes, they were fuck. I don't remember the exact names, but Ruth was explaining.
They were not.
You can store things, you can bring things out, you can change things, and you can empower things to be better at what they already do.
Mm-hmm. I see you're an Aether Master yourself.
Except none of those things have to do with Heartbeat Shotgun. But I guess he's changing. Sound. That's right. He's infusing his heartbeat. True. And Muzazi's thrusters.
He's creating those. So that's just it's the same sort of principle. Remember when Dragon's shot out his little shitty ball of Aether at the start?
Yeah, his fucking weak Kamehameha.
So because it's weak as an attack, but it can be used to propel, with what Muzazi does.
So one other thing I noticed, and maybe you just have good internet, maybe the stars are truly aligning today, but you're not cutting out for me at all. I don't know if that's because of the new mic or what, but it's beautiful.
It's because I'm here in the room with you. How would I cut out?
Oh, that's right. Everybody, I'm hugging Tanhony right now.
All the lights in your house
so
turn
buddy.
off.
No! What is this? Why would you do that?
Anyway, it's time for Aetheral Space.
Take it away.
I will be reading just to celebrate the new mic. And Darnell will be popping in with his observations, I guess.
Do you want me to do the character voices, or do you want to do those two?
You can do the character voices. Many years ago, Sut was drifting down from a factory overhead by the time Sate arrived, like inverted snow raining down on the facility. He didn't wait for his driver to stop before opening the door and jumping out, his weakened knees shaking as they dropped the meter to the ground. He didn't take the time to notice. Sweat was pouring from his forehead and his breath was coming out, it should be, in ragged, unsightly breaths. To him, right now...
Alright, maybe pull the mic slightly away from your mouth.
To him, right now, the only thing that existed was the facility. It wasn't much to look at. It had been built using an old warehouse as cover, after all. Beneath the ruined veneer was a cutting-edge medical facility, but there was no sign of that from the outside. Sir! Oh, no, sorry, I got too into it.
You're good. Sir!
Cried his driver from inside the car. Sate ignored him as he ran towards the factory.
Sate's... Wait, I thought Sate was in a wheelchair.
This was many years ago, don't forget.
Oh, shit, sorry, I forgot. 3 paragraphs later, I forgot.
It's like fucking Westworld. When is this, Teddy?
Someday sounds a lot like never, Sate. You think Sate's heading to the milk baths right now?
The call had come just as he'd been preparing to go to bed for the night. Now, after hearing it, Sate was as awake as anything. Likely he'd never been as alert in his life. Likely it'd never be again. He had to hurry. He had to deal with this quickly, or else... As Sate reached the outside wall of the warehouse, nearly slamming into it at the speed he was moving, he fumbled around in his jacket pocket and pulled a keycard free. There were no identifying details on it. No photo, no name, just a jet black piece of plastic. This wasn't the kind of facility he wanted evidence to exist of, after all. He pressed it against the wall with such force that he almost cracked the thing. Then a hollow click was audible from within the concrete wall. The whole thing slid away, withdrawing inside the wall and to the side to reveal a doorway. Inside, a compact elevator... I'll change that to within.
This is so weird when you're both reading and editing.
Within, a compact elevator could be seen, just big enough to fit one person. This was an expressway down, after all, not the intended entrance. Sate didn't waste any time. There wasn't any to waste. He strode inside the elevator and slammed his fist against the button, the tired machinery waking up as the lift descended. The loft descended. The shaft was dark, the only source of light being the light bulb hanging above, and Sate couldn't help but hold his nose at the mingled scents of rust and blood. There was an abundance of corpses in Talden. People died every day, after all, and most of the time those deaths were without purpose. The penniless, the destitute, the criminal. When they died, they were only useful to the flies and worms. This facility, and others like it, had been created to change that. The elevator stopped.
Here's, actually, as much as I would love to celebrate the new mic, it's really weird to have you narrate and edit. Do you want me to just read again?
Yeah, sure. That was your yearly Aetheral space reading from Tanhony, everyone.
Yeah, just to make it, yeah. The elevator stopped. Sate stepped out into a sterile white corridor, ignoring the alarmed shouts of two passing doctors. As he ran through the hallways as quickly as he could, he already knew the way, Sate caught glimpses of the extraction rooms through the windows that lined the corridors. Each and every one of them was full of human corpses, lying face down beneath the tender mercies of mechanical arms. Veritable factory lines designed to extract the useful organs from corpses as quickly and efficiently as possible. To fully harvest a corpse took only around a minute, and then the organs could be preserved and moved to storage, where they could be sold on to interested parties. It was a simple calculus, if you really thought about it. These corpses could go undisturbed and benefit nobody, or they could be put to use and benefit Sate. There was no choice. Only one option created more happiness in the world, after all. Oh, used to be a bit of an existentialist, huh, Sate? Now you're a bit of a nihilist, Or not an existentialist, sorry, a utilitarian.
Yeah.
Sorry, he was a utilitarian, now he's a bit of a nihilist. And if some deaths had to be expedited for that purpose, well, accidents happened. He reached the door he was looking for, opened it with another swipe from his black keycard. The moment the door opened, he charged into the surgery room, hoping beyond hope that it wasn't too late. His heart crumbled. Dr. Krieg sat down next to the operating table, taking a sip of water from a paper cup. The nurses who assisted him had clearly already left the room. The tools, scalpel, saw, and the rest lay on a metal fold-away table next to Krieg. They had been washed already, but would need to be fully decontaminated within the next hour or so. The operating table was empty, save for the smallest pool of blood dripping off the side. Drip. Drip. A choking sound escaped Sate's throat. "I told you to wait," he muttered, putting a hand against the glass window for support. Dr. Krieg sniffed, didn't look up as he spoke to Sate. Whether from guilt or disrespect, he couldn't be sure. "I told you before you came here," he said. "The other sponsors wanted me to deal with this before it became a problem. I wasn't about to disobey them, even for you. I told you to wait!" Surely this was a dream. Surely he'd turn over in his bed the wrong way and wake up, and he would laugh later just how illogical this dream was, how the pieces just didn't fit together. They did fit together, like a nightmare jigsaw. Dr. Krieg looked up at him. There was no sympathy in his eyes. "Waiting was not an option," he said, calm. "Please sit. You look unwell." Sate collapsed into a chair, the exertion of the last few minutes catching up to him as he panted. "Oh, no," he muttered into his hands, voice muffled. "You can't do this. You can't." "I have," Dr. Krieg went on, "as you would have ordered me to if it were anyone else. The girl was in contact with the media. She'd taken pictures, videos. She was an unacceptable risk, granddaughter or not." "Oh, Anna!" Sate wasn't sure who he was talking to. Himself? Krieg? Why? "I told you. I told her to leave well enough alone. She shouldn't have. No, I'll have to bury her. My Anna. My Anna. Krieg cleared his throat awkwardly. That won't be possible, he said, now with the slightest hint of trepidation. After harvesting, we couldn't leave any evidence behind, so the taste of bile rose into Sate's mouth. He glared at Krieg, even as he held his face in his hands, eyes peering like twin nightmares from between his fingers. How dare you! He hissed. Krieg adjusted his tie. It's standard operating procedure. Right, it was standard operating procedure. He'd written those procedures himself, agreed that this was the best course of action when it came to leaks. He'd signed off on the state, coming to countless journalists, countless activists. He'd had their organs cut out and exchanged for money. He'd bought his house with that money, the clothes on his back, everything he owned. And now that it affected him, he became disgusted? Repulsive. What a repulsive thing he was! But still, as hideous as he was, as he felt in that moment, a small vindictive thing was unfurling in his chest, like a spiteful maggot, a warped mockery of a conscience, self-serving and hypocritical, but insistent all the same. Once you calm down, Krieg was saying, you'll agree with me. I'm simply following your example, after all. Sate grunted as he stood up, legs shaking for a moment like those of a newborn deer. Then they stopped, whole body becoming deathly still, a kind of awful calm coming over him as his next course of action presented itself in his mind. Each step felt like an effort, yet he made them all the same. 1 step, 2, 3... He stood before the table of surgical instruments. His eyes settled over the scalpel, scanning it. Not so long ago, this thing had been used to cut through. Sate, Krieg said from behind him, a measure of worry finally making itself known. What are you doing? Sate took the scalpel between 2 fingers like a pen and turned it over, inspecting it. There, just beneath the hilt, the tiniest drop of dried blood. Demanded things of him. He tightened his grip on the scalpel so tightly his hand ached and swung around, taking the first step towards Krieg. The doctor never even got the chance to shout. Lucius Sate opened his eyes. He'd fallen asleep in his wheelchair, as he nearly always did these days, and his attendant had left him facing a window with a view of the night city. Towering buildings like the great trees of a metal forest, cars zipping this way and that like tiny steel bees. Once he'd thought the city to be a grand monument to progress, the future writ large on the skyline. Now, though, it seemed little more than a grotesque parody of civilization. This is yours, he told himself, his traitorous inner monologue turning its knives upon him. All of this has come from you. Look at it. Look at your good work. He sniffed. These kinds of midnight loathing sessions were not uncommon. Quite often he'd find himself awake, staring out over the city he hated, mind rushing through the life he hated. And yet he'd never done a thing about it. No matter how much he hated, he had no will to act, and that sloth only inspired further self-loathing. An almost comedic cycle of apathy and spite. Even while he was aware of it, he still couldn't bring himself to do a thing about it. Well, he croaked, spitting upon the ground. Perhaps Haynes would slip on it and break his neck. That'd be quite nice. He tapped a button, and the left arm of his wheelchair opened up, revealing the contents within. Nothing much, just a few pieces of stationery and his script. He wrestled the script free with one hand, taking a spare pencil with the other to use as a makeshift stylus. The script activated automatically at the warmth of his touch, returning to its display from earlier that night. A news story from Bright-Eye Talden talking about the Citizen. Dreams had done a fine job covering up most of the details of what had occurred at the Nyane, but a warped version had hit the news regardless. The circumstances were unknown, but it was now public knowledge that the Citizen himself had appeared and wreaked havoc. Sate smirked ruefully at the sensationalism. That damn Night-Eye's dream was an annoying bastard, but he knew what he was doing. His finger stroked over the word. Citizen. He hadn't given the man much thought, to be honest. All he'd been was another annoying reason for the sponsors to invite him to more meetings. There was a kind of fire to him, Sate realized. Even without seeing the Citizen, even without hearing him, you could feel the heat he emanated, feel the way he burned away at the structures they'd built. It wasn't that bad a feeling, to be honest. Sate's gaze flicked back up to the city. It wouldn't be that awful at all to see this place become an inferno. That young woman, Serena Dell said, had said something when he'd informed her of the way this world functioned. She'd said that if nothing meant anything, then she might as well do what made her happy. He'd thought it nonsense, but it wasn't so far from the idiotic optimism his granddaughter had spouted. Something unfurled in his chest. The light shifted, just slightly, and for a moment it seemed like Sate's whole life had reached a single ephemeral image. Everything made a kind of momentary, transitory sense. A thin, humorless smile spread across his wrinkled face. Right here, right now, he knew what would make him happy. A course of action had presented himself.
Itself, that should be.
Himself? Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I was surprised. Haynes adjusted his tie as he entered the room, summoned by a signal from Sate's wheelchair. To summon him at this time of the night, the old bastard had no sense of decorum. It was damn near 3 a.m. He had been sleeping, of course. He'd taken the opportunity to grab a drink, but the principle of the thing was the same. If he wasn't being paid so much, he'd have thrown this job away years ago, and probably thrown the miserable bastard down the stairs with it. A constant day-in, day-out barrage of cynicism from some has-been doctor wasn't Haynes' idea of a fruitful career. Still, he didn't let any of that slip out in his words. He was a professional. "You called me, sir?" he said brightly as he approached his client. Lucius Sate wasn't looking at him, rude, instead staring out the window. A deactivated script lay on his lap, and his gaze was pensive as he looked out over the city. "Haynes," he croaked. "You're fired." Haynes refrained the urge to roll his eyes. This senile old fuck. How many times had they had this conversation? "If you'll recall, sir," he said as patiently as he could, "you're not the one who pays me. I'm afraid you can't actually fire me." Sate turned his head, just slightly, to regard him. "Haynes," he repeated, more insistently this time. "You're fired!" So this was the way they were going to play it. Haynes smiled easily as he approached Sate's wheelchair, hands clasped behind his back. "It's very late at night, sir," he said gently, as if speaking to a child. "Perhaps you'd like some medication to help you sleep?" When he reached Sate, the old corpse reached out, putting a feeble skeletal hand on Haynes' arm. "You're fired, Haynes," he went on, patting at his arm. "You should leave right now." The irritation flaring up in Haynes finally leaked out. "Listen," he snapped, leaning in to talk right into Sate's face. "If you—" The next word in that sentence was think, but it didn't come out. All that left Haynes' mouth was a gasp of hollow air and a few specks of blood that dotted themselves onto Sate's impassive face. Confusion gripping him, Haynes tried to speak again, but again no words came out of his mouth. Sate glanced downwards, nodded, and Haynes followed his gaze. A pencil was in the old man's hand, and he'd plunged it, with uncharacteristic strength, right into the softest part of Haynes' throat. It was buried nearly up to the eraser, blood leaking, so it's basically through the other end of the neck. Blood leaking out around it as if it were the cap in the bottle. He blinked. He tried to swallow, and he could feel the pencil inside his throat as he did. "That's not good," he thought vaguely, as if he were drunk. "I need to take that out. No, I shouldn't take it out. Should I? I need to..." Sate made the decision for him. With a grunt of effort, he pulled the pencil free again, and now there was nothing to stop the torrent of blood as it poured from his throat. Staggering backwards, gasping like an air-drowned fish, Haynes put his hands to his wound and did his best to stop the bleeding, but it was futile. Blood was spilling between his fingers, pouring to the floor like a waterfall. He felt faint. Slowly, inexorably, his knees failed him, and he collapsed into a pile on the floor, choked breaths fading away. All his words gone, his eyes fixed on Sate, on his killer, and he gurgled. "Why?" Sate didn't dignify it with a response. Ruth frowned as the image on the television switched. "Hey, I was watching that!" Dragon sat up, frowning as he saw the words in the corner of the now black screen. Talden Municipal Alert System. Some kind of emergency broadcast? What was going on? They'd returned to the room after their training session. Skipper had made himself scarce for the moment, and Ruth had started some sensationalized cooking show while Dragon was reading. There certainly hadn't been any indication of an announcement earlier that night. The screen remained black, but a voice was audible, just on the boundary of hearing. It cleared its throat. "Talden," it said, an elderly male voice, most likely in his late 90s or further. Who was he? "My name is Lucius Sate." Oh. Wait, Dragon knows who Sate is?
Well, I just answered the question.
Oh. As Ruth futilely mauled the remote, trying to find a channel that wasn't being taken up by this monologue, Dragon stood up and carefully listened. The voice of Lucius Sate seemed to flicker in and out with the switching of the channels. Most of you will know me as director of the Anisate Memorial Hospital. Oh my god, the hospital was named after his granddaughter that got killed. No! Dan! Why are you laughing with glee? Also, is your mic back on the stand? You sound like echoey
Yeah,
again.
sorry, I moved away for a second.
Shaking my head. Ruth paused, mercifully letting go of the remote long enough for Dragon to snatch it away. That's where Bruno and Serena are, she muttered. But, Sate went on, others among you may know me as the sponsor of care. Dragon's eyes, widened. Questions he'd been about to voice
dead.
dying in his throat. So wait, I assume people know of the sponsors, but like, are their identities hidden?
Well, no, they don't know, which is why it's a big oh shit moment.
So like people know so people don't know the sponsors exist.
Yeah.
Okay. The sponsor of care? Was that like the sponsor of war? The bovine asshole exporting them? I assume exploiting. Or extorting, yeah. If that was the case, Dragon was fairly sure this wasn't something meant to be aired out in such a public forum. I'm not talking to the bastards I work with, though, Sate growled. I'm talking to you, citizen. You forgot a quotation mark there, by the way. I am done with this. All of it. I want nothing more to see it all come down. See it all fucking burn. If that's what you want too, then we are of a mind. Come find me. I am at the Memorial Hospital. I've locked down the building. All patient rooms are sealed and all security drones reassigned. If anyone attempts to interfere with you, they will be fired upon. I'm so glad the hospital has automatic weapons. Also, you need to put a quotation mark after that citizen, after Sate growled.
I'm doing a quantum.
Is my page just not refreshing?
I'm not changing it. No.
Oh. There.
What the fuck are you doing?
I'm waiting in my office on the top floor, citizen. I'll tell you the names of my associates, and then you will kill me. Consider it a commission. I'll see you there. The message flicked back to the cooking show. Dragon blinked, not even noticing as the remote slipped from his grip and clattered onto the floor. Shit! He said. Oh god, Serena and Bruno are trapped in hell nightmare world. And all the sponsors, the fifth dead's gonna be... Oh, this is a bad situation, huh? Do you think they're gonna escape in the chaos? Are they gonna lend their aid to the citizen? What's happening here? I don't know.
What will this was...
I gotta be real. For a character that is not part of the main cast and has thus far just been a nihilistic bastard, this was probably one of the most interesting chapters so far. By all means. The character development behind the Sate, the story leading up to the decision, the gravitas of the situation. Honestly, it kind of gave me flashbacks to that climax in Arc 1 where, like, you know, right around the part where Musashi throws the cart. This was definitely one of the better chapters.
The Toyota incident.
This is just, like, a really fucking good chapter. You nailed it. You blew it out of the park. And, yeah. Knocked it out of the park, not blew it out of the park. Fuck me. You know what I meant. Yeah, that was good. Anyway, question for this week is Tanhony's mic good or bad?
What do you think?
Nothing to do with Aetheral Space.
Enjoying it?
We need feedback, please. It sounds good when you're close, but when you leave it on the stand, it sounds really echoey.
Sorry, guys. If it's been echoing, I do apologize.
Oh, that's way better. I mean, you don't need to whisper Asper like that, but just like wherever you have it right now.
This is like comically close to my face.
That's fine. Whatever it takes.
Wherever it takes. So
I'm sure there will be a way to adjust it if we find... Yeah, unless you have another one. If we find someone technologically savvy, I'm sure they can find a way to make it more convenient.
Well. Anyway, well, I'm glad you enjoyed this episode, guys. I'm going to assume you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, I
enjoyed it. Darnell enjoyed it.
And that's the target audience of Aetheral Space. Smile.
True. It's me. He made the series with me in mind. Not really, but I want to believe.
Well, I think it's like, if you have someone who reads a lot of your stuff, you'll start writing stuff that you think they will like, I think.
Maybe. In that case, it might be a bad thing I'm reading so much of this, since you probably want it to appeal to a more wider audience than my dumbass. Who knows?
You're the avatar of the masses.
Am I now? I'm so honored.
Well,
right,
anyway,
thank you guys for
the
listening.
episode's over now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.